Hello, everybody, and welcome to this episode of the Heretic Hammer Podcast. I am your host, Marshall, and this is my co-host, Dylan.
Hello, hello.
And today, Dylan, you consider yourself a music guy, a musical guy?
I like music. I like it a lot.
I do too. I was in band for 7 years. No.
It's quite a while.
No. Well, I was in like normal band through school for like 7 years. And then I did college jazz band for a year. It's technically 8, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
Then I didn't touch the saxophone for another 13 years. So
Until today's saxophone episode.
I do
Hammer.
need to bust that up, but I fear opening the case because of the potential mold inside it.
Oh,
like,
yeah. If you haven't like opened it in a while,
yeah, no, I have not. I'm gonna need
Watch
a
out for
mask. I'm gonna open it outside. I'm gonna need a mask. Been a lot more guitar, somewhat as of late. But then I did the similar thing where I didn't touch that for like 3 years when I was at a different apartment that just wasn't conducive to playing. So that was good. But you know what I did do? I listened to music.
Hey, now that's something we can all relate to.
Exactly. And what has great music, and especially like it's had great music for a long time. I don't know necessarily that maybe I will be one like showcasing many of that answer today, but like even looking at some of the Dawn of War music, I was like, there's some pretty there's some pretty complicated tracks, and Warhammer games have seemingly always kept to that.
Complex in like their structure, like the number of instruments that are being used
well,
at a given
especially like
time.
you think of video game music in like 2003, right? You're like the idea, like orchestra music in video games was like a complete and total just why would you ever do that? It wasn't, they didn't really hit a movement in that until like maybe like the 2010s. Like I remember it was like a huge deal that like Skyward Sword had an orchestral soundtrack.
It's not even just it's the difference between like a MIDI sampled orchestra and like a recording of a live orchestra.
Right.
Like the Mario Odyssey thing,
Mm-hmm.
of that being just entirely a live orchestra for the soundtrack and what a difference that made.
Yeah, and I mean, I can't say to how every, how, they did a number of those things for those early games. But I think it was just the idea, though, that they like still had kind of almost always kept to this theme. Kind of showed that for a long time, Warhammer music has kind of had a vibe,
You mean the vibe isn't just like, I don't know, murder in space?
Well, that's visually the vibe.
Space murder?
That's visually the vibe. But, we're going to talk
Okay.
about, audibly.
Okay. Musically, they're dipping into a few more interesting pockets.
Yeah, and I think that kind of has always been the case, but I think today I thought we could look at what we feel like are like really good examples of like, soundtracks from 40k. Most of the ones I grabbed are from games. Technically there are others out there that can be grabbed, that can be found. They've had because they have had music that stems from audio plays. They have their classic audio book intro and outro song, like music. So like there are plenty of Warhammer 40k tracks out there. But the easiest ones to know, like, this one way or the other is connected to a form of canon of GW, is the video games. So, and that's obviously also just a great source of having a large number of tracks.
Can I ask you a question?
Yes.
That literally just occurred to me. When people meet to play Warhammer 40k in person, like the actual tabletop game, are you aware of them playing music while they're doing that? Like, do they bring in like a boombox and put some music on in the background to like make things more exciting? Kind of like some people do with, tabletop RPGs.
Yeah.
Where they'll play background music off of like a Bluetooth speaker or whatever.
If it was like, if we did this at my house, I would say yes. At a game store, no, because unfortunately, there are other people at the game store. So you have to unfortunately placate to the idea.
Those other people really don't want to listen to like a 24-hour Jamiroquai playlist. No matter how good Canned Heat is, they're like, no, thank you.
Well, I was gonna say,
at least put on Deeper Underground while you're there.
Yeah, I was gonna say the people playing Magic the Gathering in the corner may not be ready for Prayers to the Machine by Jesper Kidd, like blasting at full volume.
They should
they should be, but they may not be ready for it.
Nothing makes you more amped to draw some land.
Only if they're playing the Warhammer 40k Commander deck. So no, I would say most generally no, unless it's at home. Then obviously you can do whatever you want, but I don't ever really get to play at home because I don't have terrain at my disposal.
Fair.
Nor a group of people that I can easily invite to play Warhammer. As most of the friends that I play TTRPGs with only do that and have no interest in the financial investment that is Warhammer. They're okay with the lore. They're down with the lore, but they're just not the whole investment part is the caveat there,
Guys, is this play about me?
The desire will creep in. The thing is, it's so long that I continue because this is how it got me, I started, because I got, I've talked about like I was into some of the lore stuff with Dawn of War and all that, but then, I started playing the Rogue Trader TTRPG. And I was just like, and then I started looking at the game a little bit and I was like, maybe it could be interesting. Maybe it's not as bad as I thought. And I was like, or maybe, maybe it could be fun. And then, it starts off. So as long as I just keep plugging away at this lore and maybe get some people to play the TTRPGs,
the cold, clammy hands of addiction.
Yeah, I could just slowly, just like the
ghost of Christmas future hovering over.
Yeah, I'm just gonna be like that meme of the guy hugging the orb or about to grab the orb, and then like the really big guy is behind him. It's going to be like my friend's TTRP, Warhammer 40k TTRPG. And then in the background, it will be playing the board game, More Gamer. Or you know what? That or Kill Team. Kill Team is the other gateway drug I'm planning on trying to gauge, Way easier to convince somebody to spend only one purchase of $65 versus multiple. Or the other one, hey, I'll split this box with you. You only got to pay me $40.
The classic.
Here you go. Take this part. Now build this stuff.
We'll pitch in together.
Yeah, exactly. Easy way in. The gateway will open. Anyway, we're talking about music.
Marshall, depending on the music I'm listening to, sometimes I'm also thinking about drugs, but that's usually like specific to decades or like certain artists. With Warhammer 40k, if I'm going to listen to the music of that world, I suppose I'd probably have like certain expectations for what it's going to sound like, with the lore that I have, with the information that's present, there's probably like key things that you're expecting, you're anticipating. I'll be honest with you. I heard a lot of those things I was anticipating. I think one of the big takeaways from this exercise wasn't necessarily that like a lot of the music I was listening to was mediocre, but that there wasn't a lot of room for surprises. A lot of the producers here, they do the work well. Like they do a good job of matching the game, which is very much their job. That is what they're supposed to be doing, is creating music that works, first of all, as a backdrop. It's not meant to be like at the forefront. It's an ancillary part of the entire experience. But also, it feels like it's filling in a lot of these checklists of like, this is what would be expected of the setting. So what I found happened was that with a lot of these songs, I was like, yeah, no, this is good. This is really good. This is really good. But so rarely was there something where I was like, whoa, like, wow, I wouldn't have expected that, or that was a really unique creative choice made there, or anything of that nature. Did you have expectations going into this, even with like all of your previous experience with 40K?
Yeah, well, that was the thing, is I think because I've heard a number of this music in the past, like, or I've like played a lot of games with like very, specific, like notable tracks, that I was like, okay, there's a place. But I think honestly, the one thing that surprised me was like, I think, which is the thing that I think I could expect, but maybe I was like I guess the thing I was hoping to be surprised by, I should say, instead, was I was hoping to kind of be surprised and kind of realize like, oh, there's a bunch of really cool, interesting, kind of, you know, creative tracks that are meant to relate to like a Xenos faction of some kind.
Yeah.
And I kind of realized like, no, everything's just kind of imperial coded with a little bit of, like with like a little bit of a twangy sauce of depending on whatever, like whatever, faction it's about. And so I was like, that's kind of a shame. you
Yeah.
know.
So what I would say is that we are, obviously we're going to be talking about music from various Warhammer 40k games. You can hear from how we're describing it, it's like we weren't finding stuff that was like especially unique or like stood out among the genre, for lack of a better term there. But I will say, for anyone listening to this episode, if you can think of specific songs that for you are like really, really stand out, that you think are really cool, definitely feel free to let us know in the comments after listening to the episode, so that way we can kind of dig into them ourselves, and maybe there are ones out there that we just didn't get around to or didn't realize were there that would change our minds on that.
No, I think exactly. I think I think there's probably more out there than we're looking at. But and even then, like, I think there's just going to be ones that are within the purview that we were trying to look at, but it's just the breadth was so big that of just like these tracks that it's just like, I would have just been sitting there mind-numbingly, like staring into the abyss of albums and tracks, and because it's tough, because there's a lot of tracks in some of these game albums where it's just like, here is, background music for walking through, random fight scene, X,
Right.
and it's just like, it's good that like they've done it, and at least they're not like total crap, but it's just like, okay, this is clearly like, kind of a one note, like, you're just kind of going through a map.
Yes, they're very much meant to like supplement a particular aspect of the game. And like I was saying before, they're meant to kind of sit in the back. These aren't like structured, narratively driven songs with like deep lyricism and, things like that. It's much more so just sort of highlighting aspects of these games, like the common elements that they all tend to share. and kind of sticking to that script, as it were.
Mm-hmm.
And they're not terrible per se. Like I will say, like there were very few tracks I listened to where I was like, oh, this is dog water. Like a lot of them were quite good. Like I say, they're very capable in what they're trying to do.
Mm-hmm.
But there also wasn't any like 17-minute prog rock segments, or like, you know, hard. I didn't, you know, get surprised by like hardcore drum and bass out of nowhere, or, you know, 40s bebop or anything. Like it's just that there is a very common thread that a lot of these tracks are pulling from, with some notable exceptions.
Right, exactly. And so, you know, I think the thing then to look at with, I mean, I would say it's not that there isn't any type of or interesting or like stuff with lyricism or whatever. Like, especially some games like have more options, but like it's, you know, that what we went through was just kind of like what truly felt like gave us the impression like this really like is exemplary of like Warhammer, like Warhammer 40k.
Yes,
you know?
yes.
So I think we can kind of get started here.
Absolutely.
I'm gonna go through one of my first ones here that I wanted to get to, because it's honestly I have one that obviously is gonna be kind of like an out there immediately, but like I wanted to go through this one quickly. You're gonna hear it, Dylan, when I start it up. Okay, no, I was like, I'm gonna try to like load these and then like immediately pause them before they go, Dylan. So you may hear like a blip before we go. The audience will not. You won't. It's just for Dylan. Like, yeah, it's just for Dylan, so he doesn't get like spooked.
And I am easily spooked. This is lore that our audience doesn't know.
Yeah,
about.
You won't hear them when I do it, but yeah. So the first one I wanted to kind of go through because I thought it would just be an interesting one. Is called The Empyrean Beckons by Pavel Lipsky. This is for the game Rogue Trader, and we're gonna kind of go through each song and then kind of go through it afterward.
Yeah, we'll talk about it after.
All right. So what I really love about this as just like a piece for Warhammer is like, especially like as the song kind of alludes to, right? The title, it's the Empyrean beckons. And the fact that like just so early on you get so many, you're getting these very like just kind of wonky chords that feel off, like, and the choir isn't like, whenever the choir sings in this song, right? It's not, it's very beautiful and like poetic in some extent, but like they're not singing necessarily like specifically in a way that's meant to elicit calm.
Yeah, certainly.
It's almost like a panicked sing, and like song. And that's kind of like, so to me, like so emphatic of the Empyrean, of the warp. This is kind of about sailing off into, the warp. And this is kind of the Imperium's way, right? Like they, they're going into this murky, lucid, just kind of dark waters of the warp, but like they're doing so with just such a forceful, like that forceful militaristic way, that then the song hits with its like heavy, with its heavy downbeats, where like the drums hit on like a march, right? Because you get a lot of like bum 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 bum, and that's it's this militaristic marching forward of the Imperium, but into this mess of like horror and souls that the warp is, as it travels into the far reaches of space.
Definitely. What was really striking me was how present the beat was. In regards to sort of the vocals and the chanting of it, I was reminded of listening to the Imperial Guard theme for Dawn of War Winter Assault, because there are, across a lot of these games, there are going to be songs that have some sort of like a chanting element, some sort of a vocal quality like that, and sometimes it's really laid back, and other times it is much more like fervent. It better represents like being in like active combat or being in like an actively dangerous situation, where in other places it's kind of like mood setting, it's a little bit more hushed, a little bit lower. I definitely feel it with this track, how it is a lot more high energy, a little more intense, from the beat to the chanting to how the rest of the instruments are implemented.
Yeah, it's just like, I feel like, especially because like, giving that this is for Rogue Trader, right? Where, that is the Rogue Trader's job. It is to go out, it is to sail into the unknown, chart new worlds for the Imperium, and bring them into the fold. There's obviously like different things that go on in the game, but like the background of the Rogue Trader is that, and so part of that, you are you're your own force. And so there is always this just authoritative, as a Rogue Trader, you are an authoritative, being. And I think this just kind of fits that really well, because like, I mean, it's otherwise a CCRPG, right? Like it's a CRPG. So like it's not like the game itself is supremely high action, but
Certainly.
you giving that sense of just like off, like authority, is, and just like commanding structure, while like you are, you know, fighting in like a chess style manner for a video game. I think more just kind of speaks to the how important it is to create atmosphere, especially in games like that, where like maybe you aren't going to necessarily feel a lot of, action. Like, think of a Call of Duty, right? Like when you're in it, most of the time there's no music, and like, especially back in the day, like there would often be times where it's just the sounds of battle. But in a scenario like
Yeah,
this, where there's a lot of potential downtime, having music to create that sense of urgency that you're not necessarily seeing, I think just helps give it so much importance to that kind of thing.
definitely.
All right, why don't you give me a track of yours here?
Let me I'll give you a track. Real quick though, while we're on Rogue Trader, I just want to give us a shout out. I'm not gonna have us listen to these, but there was a 3-track run in Rogue Trader that
Oh yeah.
really caught my attention. And you spoke before about like the purpose of the Rogue Traders and like why they exist, what they do, and how they're these sort of, you know, adventurers in a sense, that are going out into unknown regions, exploring new worlds. And there's this 3-track run that starts with Isha's Tears, and then it goes into Genesi and Frey, and then Maiden World. And these 3 tracks like really stuck out for me right away. They're genuinely just like beautiful. They have this kind of ethereal, otherworldly quality to them. And I found out after the fact that they are all played while you're on a planet specifically called Janus, parts of the game that take place on that planet. And I really appreciate for games when they have these really distinct sounds that they're playing with across their music, to the point where like a certain region or a certain area, the music itself has like a very distinct sound compared to other areas in that game. So I just want to give that a quick shout out. For my first track that I'm gonna have us listen to here. So you actually, I think you played it for all of 10 seconds when we were doing testing.
Oh sure.
So I don't know if it's one of your tracks that you were planning to pick, but in talking about, the difference between something kind of being background music and then something that has a bit of an oomph to it, a bit of a character to itself, I wanted to bring up the Dark Tide soundtrack, composed by Jesper Kyd, as we mentioned earlier there, and specifically the track Immortal Imperium.
All right. Yeah, I mean, like the Dark Tide soundtrack has truly, like, I feel like, given a lot of gifts to like the Warhammer community for music. I mean, there's gonna be one that I think most Warhammer people have heard, but like I felt like it was important to put in here because of that fact. But this one definitely, I think there's a lot of tracks to point to on this album. So yeah, let's give this one a listen. All right, well, it was your track, so you take the floor first.
There you are. Yeah. Immortal Imperium from Dark Tide. So, what really stuck out to me about this track, I mean, so much of the synth work that's being done on this track is so heavenly. You have these really striking, high pitched, almost organ like notes being played. You have this arpeggio that's going on. It's like do 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 do. That really works to kind of start the act of building up the song. And then immediately after, you get this complete cutout. All the sound is cut out, and we bring in this really, really tasty deep bass that is just kind of an ebb and flow, boom, 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 boom. And as Jesper works to bring in, other instrumentation and kind of build upon that, you have this great moment where you have the bass sitting at the bottom, and then you still have this kind of wild percussion up top that's, got a little more of an analog sound to it. Really, really strong beat to it overall, and it has a groove to it that a lot of these other tracks on other Warhammer games don't necessarily have. It's maintaining that energy and that tension, but there's also a groove. There's something here that you can actually kind of, move your body to a little bit if you wanted to. And it caps it off with like these other higher pitched synths that are coming in. One of them almost sounds like a klaxon alarm. And again, it's just doing a really good job of like having this nice, consistent groove throughout while still maintaining the tension and pairing well with the gameplay of Dark Tide itself.
Yeah, I mean, one thing to me that I think always really sticks out, and maybe I could just play this in post, but like, the thing that I think I've always remembered this song with, when you're talking about the arpeggios especially, there's a part kind of in the intro as it really starts to crescendo into that kind of main, that kind of main chorus segment. And like where Bricky uses it in his general history of 40k timeline video. And I remember watching that video and being like, that this song works so well for kind of like this type of build. And like, cause like he's starting it with like, he's speaking in this kind of almost like a commissar kind of, like with this like authoritative, like, which authoritative really is going to be the theme here. But, like,
oh, no kidding.
Yeah. But like,
in a militocracy.
No kidding. I know. Right. But yeah, like, like he's speaking with like such like command, and the idea in something like 40k, especially, and obviously like of just like, like hearing your commander speak to you. And like that build up with that arpeggio kind of just in the background, the chorus is swooping in and out, and it's just like building and building. It's like ready for that, like when that crescendo just crashes in, like that you would like hear the war cry behind it, like of 10 million soldiers, like of the Imperial Guard. Like it's just got that like that oomph when it hits. And I think it's just like what strikes me so much about it, because like when you're playing Dark Tide and when this song is going through, especially because like most of the time I feel like I notice it, it's actually kind of like when it's maybe more in the swing of the kind of later, that mid part of the song where you're just, it's like, it's just this kind of like the synth is just kind of like warping in and out, but it's right on beat, it's just, and that's when I noticed it in the game. And then you just get into like, you're fighting more things. And as like the chorus comes in, and the arpeggio hits, you're just like, yeah.
Yeah, totally. All right, so what's the next track that you got for us?
Yes, so I think we'll go for a good tonal shift this time.
Ooh.
Yeah. So I thought, one of the things that could be really fun to have in something like this is a hold on. All right. Anyway,
Did I lose
no, I was just no. Anyway, so I thought, we talked about it, and in canon there is, yep, there's what I was talking about. Yeah. No, we talked about how, like, when we talked about some of the weird, wacky lore or orc stuff, right? All those weapons. We talked about the reality of, of goth rock. So, and the best part about the game Blood, Shooters, and Teeth is that it's almost exclusively goth rock in the background. So I thought honestly though, what really fit that, because it includes the whole band the whole time, is the theme song "Shooters, Blood, and Teeth." Yeah, I mean,
this is such a great pick. It is the absolute counter argument to what we were talking about at the beginning of this episode. It's a song that is, so quintessentially Warhammer. It's not the type of song that you could kind of drop into another, like, military sci-fi background and have it mix in the same way. It is so genuinely Warhammer to its core, and it's fun. It's having fun with the concept. Really great job by Dion Van Heerden. I actually had on my list another song from this soundtrack. My personal pick was Voidport Hangar B45 High Intensity.
Oh
Which is a great name for a song.
yeah.
But this whole soundtrack is just, it's really solid metal. They're constantly playing around with the melodies, tons of different riffs that are being thrown in, and the theme song is so great. The orc lyrics and the vocals, like I said, they just do so much to establish it as its own unique thing.
Yeah, and I mean the thing to me like that I think is like great to point out about this song, I mean in golf rock in general, right, is, you know, this is the song, this is the music that they are listening to heading into WoW, right? Like they, as you know, especially like as speed freak bands, especially this game takes place with bad moons, as you can tell by the moons on their back, but they you know, they are, everybody makes use of a wall one way or the other, and often, you know, employs some form of speed freak, and like they go hand in hand often because like they will literally be riding in with their concert going into the battlefield. But like, you know, this is about psychically charging the orcs, right? Like it empowers the WoW so much harder when it's a big orc invasion, because they're literally blasting music across the whole, which is why like the fact that the main, you know, chorus lyric is just WoW is, it's so perfect because it's good for the game, right? It's just like this fun, goofy, you know, because it's a goofy game, right? It's a game that doesn't take itself too seriously. You know, it's a game that is like, you know, you're playing an orc who got betrayed by his boss because the boss wanted your hair squig, and now you have vowed revenge on your boss because he stole your hair squig. You know, not like I mean, in a way, he also tried to kill you. He did throw you off the chopper, but like specifically, or was a plane? I can't remember. But anyway, yeah, like, you know, he threw you to the ground hundreds of, if not thousands of feet. And so, you know, you are, you know, like, so in a way he did attempt to kill you, but like, it's more about the hair squig. But like, you know, this playing the whole time, you know, going to see the band in the game and like seeing all the orcs, like watching the band. It's just like all good. Yeah. It's so funny. But like, again, it works because it's also accurate, you know? Like it's a great balance of being both things. It's the silly reality that the orcs are, but then, you know, like, you know, this is the song, you're going against a human army. And so like the fact that he's talking about crush the humies, you know, you think you're bigger than me, talking to a space marine, you know, like there's so much to it that like, it's like it fits, that just fits in. And it's just a fun, good time, ready for a scrap. Because if we all know, a mosh pit truly is just a scrap.
Oh yeah. 1-1.
All right. What do you got next?
All right. So I'm realizing as we go through these, it definitely feels like we're going to lean more towards the modern side of Warhammer 40k soundtracks.
I think that's where some of mine will be. Yeah, that's where mine generally was. Well, I had a couple, but
yeah. I have made no secret of the fact that for the Warhammer 40k games that I have played, one of the big ones for me was playing Warhammer 40k Space Marine 2 when that came out, and adored it, had a great time with it, so much so that I had 3 different songs picked out for which one I wanted to actually
hey, so did I.
play for you today. So the honorable mentions would be Void Song and Warp Whispers,
Mm-hmm.
but those are not the ones that I'm going to have us listen to. Instead, there is a song that I feel is easily one of my favorite tracks in the entire soundtrack of Space Marine 2, and kind of similar to what you were talking about with Rogue Trader, it almost has this like quintessential feel to it of like this is what Warhammer 40k sounds like to me. And that track is Onslaught from Warhammer 40k Space Marine 2.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like Space Marine 2 had a good number of them, but I don't remember listening to this one yet, so by name. So it's next to two that I liked, so that I had saved. So we'll have to see.
It's a real powerhouse of a track.
Yeah.
And there we go. That's Onslaught from Warhammer 40k Space Marine 2. One of my favorite tracks out of all of them that we listened to. And it is just an all cylinder song to me. There's these really great like ratcheting percussive elements that the song starts out with, and it brings in, the orchestral booms. There's brass elements, but they're never completely overpowering the track. It feels like the track is constantly shifting and changing. And for me, the moment where it becomes like fantastic is that there's this great like triumphant brass riff that comes in around like the minute 36 mark, and that then sort of heralds the entire song kind of shifting. The tempo changes a little bit, becomes a little slower, a little more foreboding, a little murkier. And then there's these great, like, skittering, plucked strings. These almost like, I'm not sure if it's off of like a guitar or if it's still just using like, you know, traditional stringed instruments. But there's this like great little skittering string moments that, you know, pop in, and they're very unsettling themselves. They have a little bit more of like a gothic feel to them. And then throughout the rest of the track, there are these moments here and there where they put in like a little moment of like, you can hear like the plucking or the thudding of the fingers against the strings that then adds in and like mixes well with like the overall bass that's happening. And it just, the whole soundscape of it is so, it's what I think of when I think of Warhammer. And it never gets boring for me. Like I say, it's switching up its structure pretty frequently. And I think it's a really, really cool track.
Yeah. Well, I think the thing that I think this has that I was kind of looking for almost was myself was actually that we would find I was like it's a track that I think really showcases like the concept and the idea of fighting the Tyranids, right? Like
yes,
because
totally.
it has that skittering and that all that is, and the fact that it's called Onslaught, you know, is meant to relate to that, you know, swarming menace. And you know, I think the thing that, you know, because the big Tyranid monsters are inherently terrifying. Yes, because, you know, if a gigantic cicada with that, you know, if a gigantic cicada that was, you know, 12 feet tall and sprouted guns for hands, you know, showed up outside my house, I'd shit myself. But if, you know, like, but if you, you know, but like, you know, the ones that really infest and get at the general dregs of society that we are, you know, on a planet, it's the little ones. It's the, you know, especially the gaunts, you know, all the rippers, you know, this, and like, I think the rippers is just like a really good showcase for that kind of skittering, string plucking, and like, that like scratchy kind of like whine sound that they play. It's like so good for a ripper swarm because they're just these teeny tiny little bugs, but they move in such like, you know, in such a wave, you know, that that is just like this scratchy skittery movement that is going to come and consume you. Like it will eat you whole.
Yeah.
You know, or not even whole. It will eat you in very many shards as they all take tiny bites out of you to death. You know, so like, yeah, I think that's like, it's a very good, it just really makes you feel the kind of griminess of the Tyranids.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right. Well, I guess technically my second to last one. The last one I'm gonna have here isn't necessarily one I had originally picked, but it was one that I kind of realized like going into it, I was like, oh, right, this is a cool song. I want to showcase when we talked about it earlier because it'll kind of bring maybe like a thematic like a bit of a theme to I think what we talk about today. So it'll be kind of a quick one, but this was my intended last one, which I feel like has kind of, you know, this song is kind of, I think, really well known. Like everybody's kind of played it. You know, most people who have done videos like this have also talked about it, but I think that was kind of why it was I wanted to also play it and talk about it, was because it literally plays through. It is become so ubiquitous, and it's kind of a little bit of the why. And I think really listening to it again gives you that why. You know, that's going to be Disposal Unit Imperium Mix by Jesper Kidd. Oh, yeah. I mean, it's just like it like the way everything just hits with the beat. I mean, like, because this is like, the reminder for Dark Tide is like, this is a game where you are fighting on a hive world, and, like effectively, like, is this kind of, like, the title of the song implicates like a garbage world, like
Yeah.
there is,
Yeah.
and it's infested by Nurgle, so it is a dark, it is a, is a dark, dismal place, but you are, you are the authoritarian regime come to return to restored order, and, I think, and like, obviously, unfortunately, there's not a there's not a correct slash what I could give as a as like an or a confidently accurate like translation for the Latin, you know, but it's just like the way that they go through the lyrics, you know, like, you know, it's just like, it's the fact that it gets warped, you know, like you are watching it almost like corrupt, because like, I mean, it sounds like it'd be coming through like a broadcast, right? You know, the classic, like, you know, kind of like authoritative figure, you know, like the Big Brother kind of thing, where it's like the, you know, the, what would be like the eye, you know, or like the video, the conditioning video, you know, but like that conditioning video is starting to break. There's just so many things that I think that tie so well to the theme of Dark Tide, and then like not only that, but then just like I think 40k, and how, like, you know, everything is kind of on this just string, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And so easily can it all just fall off the rails.
Yeah, it's always 1 second away from disaster. Really good track, and another. I mean, it's one of those things where it's almost to be expected when you have somebody like Jesper Kyd doing the soundtrack, but you know, you have that very groovy, chuggy bass going on, consistently throughout the track. Kind of keeps it rooted, throughout.
Yeah, and I mean, I think I think one of the things to wonder is, like, you know, why did this song kind of, because I mean there was, you know, there's technically other title tracks. Why did this song be the one that like took the Warhammer community? You know, that it's kind of used. I mean, this got even used inherently like kind of outside the Warhammer community, right? Like there were just TikToks that would use the song in trying to sound like, you know, soldiers or whatever, you know, like making mocks of like being authoritarian essentially, right? And you know, so like what is it about this song? And I think it's just like, I think it's just how perfectly like both collected and unhinged it is at the same time. It just feels right. I think like, so like I think when you're a Warhammer 40k fan and you hear this song, you hear how it moves. It just like, it feels like, yeah, like, because like that's how all of Warhammer 40k is. It is both like, you know, there is great order, but then there is also great dysfunction.
Yeah, totally.
All right, what is your last track there?
Okay, so time for one more track.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I'm gonna do one. If we're gonna do one more, this is one that not only do I enjoy it in the game that it's attached to, but this is actually one of the ones that I frequently listen to outside of playing the game. This is one that I listen to when I am like doing chores around the house, out on walks, and it is also one that was not on the shared playlist we were kind of looking at as we were figuring out the music to listen to. If you have listened to previous episodes of this podcast, you know, and I'm going to give you the specific link, by the way. I've got the link. I'll send it over to you in Discord here. You would know that I am basically in love with Warhammer 40k Bolt Gun. It is one of my boomer shooters of choice. It is one of my favorite 40k games.
I didn't go into the playlist.
I am so stoked for the sequel to be coming out possibly this year. I was super into the typing version of the game that they released last year.
Yeah.
That ruled. It was a lot of fun. Warhammer 40k Bolt Gun really leans into the like 80s hair metal aspect.
Mm-hmm.
The like, you know, dragons and guitars and gothic paintings on the side of like a van, you know, type of aesthetic. They really lean into that, and a lot of the like menu music really leans into that. So my pick, and I'm gonna drop the link for you in our Discord chat right here, is not only one of the best songs in the game, one of my favorite songs, but also has one of the best titles. My selection is Ultra Blueberry Jam from Warhammer 40k Bolt Gun.
Ultra Blueberry Jam. This is from the actual thing, right?
Yes.
This is actually from it. Because I'll tell you what, looking at the image and the video, it wouldn't have been my guess. The video of the one that is using in this video, because it's pretty great. Malum Kaido, our hero. All right, let's make sure it's back here. All right, let's give this a go here. Oh man.
So there you have it. Ultra Blueberry Jam from Warhammer 40k Bolt Gun.
I just needed to reset the visuals so that we could continue to stare at this glorious edit of the cover.
It's pretty amazing, isn't it? Shout out to the YouTuber there, the Dude Nukem, that uploaded this. So what's interesting
I was
about
gonna say,
this,
because this was
and I don't know
yeah.
if it's grounds for a quote-unquote disqualification. My understanding, because I've looked into it on my own time, because I was like, I need to hear more, is that this song was written by a band called D-Rock.
Yeah, that's what the description mentioned.
A bunch of stuff. Yeah, that wrote a bunch of stuff for Games Workshop. So this plays pretty much exclusively on the main menu. You don't hear this music in the actual game itself. And I'll be honest, it's one of the few issues I take with Warhammer Bolt Gun is that they don't do more to like incorporate these like awesome title themes that were like done by like D-Rock, you know, that they're only in the menu and they don't really show up in the actual game. To me, that's a bummer for sure. But it is, I mean, it's just the perfect thing for getting you hyped to start playing the game. You know, that classic Doom-esque, you know, menu comes up and this music starts playing and you're just like, oh yeah, I'm ready to carve into this and just have a great time.
I'm ready to chew bubblegum and kill heretics, and I'm all out of bubblegum.
Exactly.
No, I mean, see, that's the thing is, like, I feel like the music for Bolt Gun is definitely not something that I thought of just, you know, early. That was the one thing I think that was the reason I didn't go in the playlist, was actually because I was actually confused about like what was actually part of the soundtrack or not in like the YouTube music kind of like searching for it. It didn't give like a proper like album like it did with a lot of the other ones. So I was like, I wasn't sure. But like, yeah, when we were listening to it, I was like, yeah, no, I remember this now. You know, and that's, you know, that's but like, it really, like, it works.
Games Workshop, make the soundtrack available everywhere.
Yeah.
I understand that with like the D-Rock, you know, connection, that there might be like additional licensing things that they have to sign off on and whatnot. I don't care. Make it available. Get it on Bandcamp while you're at it, you know, make it so that I can pay you money for this soundtrack and I'll put it on my iPod and just jam.
Yeah.
Just blueberry jam all day.
Blueberry jam. That's the funny thing too, is that it's like the fact that it's called Blueberry Jam, but you know, it's just like, it's not, I was gonna say, yeah, I think that's the thing, right? I think it's like, it's great with like your perspective because like, you know, this is your initial taste of Warhammer, right? It's like,
it kind of is in a lot of ways. It was like the first Warhammer 40k game that I got like really into. And was a part. It was definitely one of the big pieces of me being like, you know, I'd kind of be interested in learning more about Warhammer.
Yeah, which like, despite the track itself, most people would probably say like, this doesn't make me think of Warhammer, but like,
this makes me think of Def Leppard.
But like, you know, if you think of the classic Noise Marine, like, you know, model that they made, like the commemorative, crazy hair one, you know, it totally could. But like, that's the thing to me too. It's just like, you know, there is room for so many fun things. And it kind of goes into the shoot his blood and teeth thing where it's just like, you know, we talked about this last time where it was just like, I think the thing that it really holds into is that, you know, I think we can't let go of the silly parts of 40K, right? Of Warhammer in general, you know, like, yes, the orcs get treated a lot as comic relief, despite that they should be terrifying. And, you know, but like, you know, War of the Beast showed in a very bad, like, well, I guess it showed in a good way how bad it can be if you take the orcs serious all the time. Right. And like, and I think it's in general also how, you know, if you try too hard to make Warhammer 40K like too cool, it can backfire. And
certainly
embracing some aspects of the silliness, and like Space Marine 2, I think, does this well because it tries not to delve too deep. It tries not to do anything crazy with the story. It's just kind of like, here's a serious plot, but like within it, we kind of get some like the goofy, silly things, like the fucking Mechanicus are annoying as shit and everyone hates them. And so Titus goes to his buddies and is like, that Mechanicus, right? And you're like, yeah, fuck those guys. You know, it's just like, it doesn't have to be slapstick, but it doesn't have to be like ultra serious, you know?
Definitely. Yeah, I think for Shoot Us Blood and Teeth, the theme that you played really resonates as like this is a type of song that is exclusive or like really defines Warhammer 40k. Like it makes sense as a Warhammer 40k song. It's really carrying that spirit. And I think with this song, what it's doing is that it is really strongly portraying the type of game that it is instead of specifically being like the heart of what makes 40k special. The Ultra Blueberry Jam, you don't hear that and immediately think Warhammer 40k as much as you think of the genre of video game that it is, that like boomer shooter from the 90s, the Wolfenstein, Doom, Quake, type of thing.
But that's very fitting for the old Warhammer head who
definitely
grew up in that era.
Yeah, who grew up and sort of fell in love with Warhammer as a franchise during that time.
All right. There is technically one more we're going to listen to. I'm not going to listen to the whole thing. I want to listen to kind of near the beginning, and we'll kind of get into it. But a big thing about this, so this is Voices of the Empyrean, and this comes from, I believe, the Void Shadows DLC. But this was a big thing about this was, I'll get into the background of it, but like, I just kind of felt like when we were talking about something during I forgot which one. I think it was your Dark Tide track. It made me think about this something in this song, and I'll tell you in a second. But let's listen to it for a little bit. Yeah.
Before we get into this, can I shout out some other honorable mentions here?
Oh yeah,
ones
absolutely.
That we didn't get to today. So real quick, I just want to give some shout outs to, like I mentioned before, we have leaned towards a lot more of the modern games. So I want to just real quick, Warhammer 40k Mechanicus. There's the song.
Oh yeah.
Cryptek.
Yeah. I mean, Children of the Messiah as well in that album.
Really good stuff in there. For the Dark Crusade, there is a Tau theme that they have that clearly has a lot of Eastern influence.
Yes.
And
I debated
really stood
that
out to me as well.
Yeah, I debated doing that.
Yep, I was considering bringing that in. And I think one that I really want to give an honorable mention to, this was effectively like my fourth, is the Sisters of Battle theme from Dawn of War Soulstorm.
Yeah.
Because that is another one that makes great use of like organ sounds, has some really boomy brass going on to it. And then there's also like a section towards the end of the track where they have some unique vocals kick in that I think are really nice. And I was kind of asking myself if I actually wanted those to be more spread throughout the track instead of just kind of coming in at the end.
Yeah.
Because they were really cool. But yeah, those are some other honorable mentions I had that we didn't get to today.
Yeah. I mean, part of that is kind of because a lot of those Dawn of War tracks are really meant to be looped a lot.
Definitely. Yeah.
The thing about the Tau one that I wanted to bring up is, they've obviously gotten somewhat deserved shit over the years about like how kind of poorly, aged some of their things with the Tau have been, right?
Yes, definitely.
Like the how the voice tracks kind of are in that like, fairly, like that stereotypical Eastern accent. But the biggest reason I didn't pick the Tau was because one of the things that actually intrigued me about that track was how, yes, it has that like Eastern influence, which inherently from a musical standpoint, that's fine because all of Warhammer is based on culture, right? Like if you go to fantasy, I mean, there's a clear example of that where it's just like, the empire in fantasy is the Holy Roman Empire. Bretonia is like a mix of French, English, because it's Arthurian knights, but then there's, literally China and literally Japan. Like Japan is literally called Nippon in Warhammer Fantasy. Like,
yeah.
Like they're they are literally borrowing from culture. And I mean, so like you look at the Eldar, they are a samurai culture in the greatest of extents, you know, and so everybody looks at the Tau and they're like, oh, Japanese Gundam. But like when you think about it, right, the weeaboo space communist thing kind of only works in the sense of like, well, different communism, more like, kind of the idea of what Chinese communism wanted, kind of things, like the idea that there is specific people in charge and they determine whose lives are what, like, and that's kind of one of the things I got with that track was I was like, is this more of like a Chinese kind of like more classic Chinese music? But I don't know enough about it. And so I couldn't gauge how much of that was my own misremembrance or if I was right. Like, I don't know. And I don't know the way to research that in the time that I had. So I was like, I'm not going to touch it. I don't want to be wrong. That's the biggest thing.
Yeah, it's better to if we don't have like a really good understanding of that.
Yeah, and I don't have that time to research. Yeah. So, that's why I decided to leave it alone, but it's a great shout out because it does, it does like really, I feel like it give the idea of like potentially the hidden things about that I think were accurate and really good for the Tau that I think kind of got lost in the weeds. But let's listen to Voices of the Empyrean, and there's a reason for it, and we'll kind of just listen to it for a bit so we can kind of get a flavor for the music and kind of what we're hearing, and then we'll move on. And then we'll talk about it because there's a thing I want to wrap with this. So a thing in this song, you are kind of seeing in the game, right? Like you're kind of seeing an astropathic choir.
Okay.
So this is like what the ship is utilizing. I mean, when ships go into the warp, they're effectively taking a bunch of chained up psychers and, pushing them to their limits to send the ship to the warp. And, it's this really, inherently dark and very like disturbing concept, just essentially you're running these psychers as a battery, but then we're literally, it's this twofold thing, right? We're listening and playing to this music. It's eerie, it's creepy, but it's also beautiful. The winding of the music box kind of sound, but then you get these like you hear the choir in the background. And it's partly because like you're literally playing this choir as an instrument, right? And I always think about that whenever I hear vocals in 40k music now, right? The idea almost of playing these choirs as instruments. And I think it really sits in that, like, I think the best thing about Warhammer 40k music especially, is that juxtaposition, that sorry, that mix of just like very creepy, like something that can try to give you some type of feeling that something's wrong, but then having this beauty at the same time, right? Something that just makes you be like, that's awesome. That sounds so, that's so good, but it's creepy.
That really is what I was getting from a lot of Rogue Traders music as well. The creepiness, the unsettling nature of it, but then also this beauty that's juxtapositioned with it.
Yeah, and I mean, I can only imagine how some of that could be pushed in something like Dark Heresy, where with as an Inquisitor, you're really diving into especially like given that the main antagonist is supposedly going to be the Night Lords. Like, I can only imagine some of the songs that are going to come from that, right? Mm-hmm. Because we're looking at this fear and beauty at the same time. And so like this, I think what it made me interested in when I was thinking about it, we were talking about it, was just how, in general, 40k music is kind of about this juxtaposition, and it was when we were listening, kind of started to talk about it with the Dark Tide track, that it was just like, there is everything kind of has a cost in 40k, and like in some ways music is no different. It is,
yeah, certainly,
in a way, in some regards, the nobles will play with people to even create music in some regard, and that's horrifying and disgusting, but it's partly what also just makes it kind of intriguing, because we're listening to, and watching these people try to survive in this, like, just completely malformed, like, reality of humanity. And what do they do with it? Some do try to do good. Some try to make their lives better. Some people believe in the aspects of the Imperium, and others are just out for themselves. And it's interesting to see the people make those decisions, And I think when the music really showcases that feeling, I think that's what makes it so strong.
Yeah.
And that'll do it for this episode.
There you go.
Nice cheery, yeah, on that cheery note.
But I mean, that's great though. I mean, again, it's coming back to like whether or not the music is doing the job it's supposed to do, which is to evoke and get you immersed into the world, and I think it does. I think it's what it accomplishes.
No, absolutely. Yeah, and I mean, I think there is inherently so much music out there that we could have brought up.
Much.
Yeah, I mean, definitely, that's a great drop it in the comments below kind of statement.
100%. Yeah, let us know in the comments if there's tracks you have that are like, that are like your standouts, your favorites. Definitely let us know.
Especially like ones that are like, like, I think, this song represents blank super well,
Yeah.
Because like I wanted one that like kind of represented Eldar really good, and I couldn't really narrow one down well enough that I was willing to put above the ones that I picked. But it's like they're out there, and it's like there's other factions too, and
yeah, if there are tracks that are like perfect representations of like White Scars or Salamanders or like other factions that like we don't think about often in relation to the video games, yeah, definitely let us know.
Absolutely. Otherwise, we'll be back next week. We got a book club.
Woo, book club.
Yeah,
we did some listening, now we'll do some reading.
Yeah. So obviously this is not a like prepare yourself. I don't expect you to read it.
To read an entire book.
Yeah. But if you know of, or you have read, or you wish to avoid spoilers for the Elemental Council, then be aware of that being the episode for next week. Otherwise, until then, we'll see you next time.
Goodbye.